Hello, and welcome to the Sharlayan Forum. My name is Chris, and today I wanted to continue my exploration of the story of Final Fantasy XI with a video about the next group of story in the series, the 3 add-on story scenarios, a Crystalline Prophecy, a Moogle Kupo d'etat, and a Shantotto Ascension. These add-on scenarios were added as additional story content throughout the lifecycle of the Wings of the Goddess expansion pack. Each of these stories is relatively short, so I elected to make one larger video containing all of their information as opposed to making 3 shorter ones. Remember to subscribe to stay informed of when I upload next, and leave a comment letting me know what you think of the add-ons and what you'd like to see me explore next. Of course, shout out again to Corvana, whose efforts to document Final Fantasy XI continue to make these videos possible. Our story begins with an opening shot of the hustle and bustle of the city of Juneau. Suddenly, a blinding flash ignites the sky with a bright, shining crystal hovering in the air. We see Aldo and various other important story characters noticing the crystal before a voice chimes out, a singing of sorts coming from the crystal. It foretells of a prophecy about the beginning of time. We see various shots of the crystal seemingly visible from anywhere in the world of Vana'diel before it shatters and rains down sparkling particles all over the world. As the particles begin to fade, the townsfolk seem to come back to their senses, snapping out of whatever trance the strange crystal had placed on them. The camera then cuts to our character walking along the street in Juneau when suddenly time seemingly freezes. All the townsfolk around us stop in their places before a young boy turns to us, asking if we had seen the light of the crystal. He mentions the Memoria della Stono, a song from ancient times that featured heavily in the past expansions. He tells us that we have already been chosen by the crystal and asks us to find 3 important shards. He then reveals that his name is Aldo, the name of the man that we know now as the leader of the Shantotto. With this, we head out to find the 3 shards that the young Aldo has asked us for. Once assembled, we find him in Quiffum Island, where he tells us the story of the beginning of Vana'diel. He explains that in the beginning there was a massive crystal, which bathed the world in light and created the gods. For a while, the world lived in relative peace, and the gods began to slumber. However, he tells us of a great bane that will devour the land of Vana'diel, and despite the ancient seal being broken, the nightmare of the past awakening, the gods will not wake from their slumber, and will instead allow the world to be consumed by this ancient evil. Young Aldo then tells us that to find answers on how we might stop this threat, we should find 3 more shards of the crystal. After gathering the 3 additional shards, we head back to Quiffum, where we give them to the young Aldo once again. With these shards, he learns of an additional passage to the prophecy that reveals how to stop the coming destruction. As he begins to explain, however, we are attacked by 5 monsters. After we defeat them, they fade away. Our current Aldo then appears, where the young Aldo reveals that he is actually our Aldo's nephew, the son of the sister that he has thought dead for quite some time. Young Aldo then tells us that we should head for Feyen, where he will explain in more detail about our current situation. In Feyen, young Aldo tells us that his mother, again Aldo's sister, is being held here behind a magical ward generated by the power of these new crystals that he calls seed crystals. We arrive in the chamber to find Aldo's sister surrounded by beastmen, enhanced with the power of these seed crystals, who we defeat, of course. They warn us with their dying breaths that Vana'diel's destruction is inevitable, and that the song the seed crystals are singing will return the land to the void whether we fight or not. From here, we run to the Hall of the Gods to learn more about the song that these crystals are singing. Here we find the unconscious body of Aldo's sister. As we approach, however, a green glow envelops her, resonating with the statue of Altana behind us. Aldo calls out to her and she snaps back to reality, begging him for help before she becomes transparent and fades away. Young Aldo then appears, explaining his and his mother's situation. It turns out that they are actually asleep in another place, and the versions that we see of them are a sort of waking projection from their dreams. When they awake in their physical bodies, they have no memories of what they did in their dream forms. Aldo explains that his mother's dream, unlike his, are filled with destruction and pain, a vision of a past so terrible that it has begun to physically manifest. He explains that the only way to stop this echo of this horrible past is indeed to stop his mother's dream, which may actually kill her. He tells us to make for Delkfutt's tower if we dare, and then leaves. As we approach the 2 in Delkfutt's tower, the young Aldo is suddenly overcome by the power of the seed crystal, his eyes glowing green and striking Aldo with a lightning bolt, incapacitating him. He recites a verse of the prophecy explaining that the world is destined to be destroyed, and the seed crystal itself forms from within him. After reciting another verse, the crystal glows brightly and attacks us. After fighting it off, it basically tells us to get wrecked and then teleports back into the sky, where it begins to glow again, creating a massive swirling cloud of darkness behind it. We see various scenes of particles being drawn out of the land and the people of Vana'diel, and the crystal seemingly absorbs their essence to return them to the void that Vana'diel was born from at the beginning of time. As the seed crystal gathers power, it begins to glow with the very light of creation itself, however, revealing that the energy it had been absorbing was actually the best deus ex machina of all time, called the Antiphon, a power bestowed to all the creations of Altana to fight against the powers of the void, like the very same seed crystals before us. By attempting to absorb this energy, the crystal inadvertently sabotaged its own plan, blocking the power of the Dark Past's echo before it could gain enough strength to break through. As the crystal's plot falls apart, we take comfort in the knowledge that we have saved Vana'diel once again, and we go on about our business. The story begins with the adventurer in the Mog House, our home base where we store our items and change our jobs. It would seem our roof has a very severe leak, and our Moogle sets about getting the leak repaired. As he checks the roof, however, the Moogle sees much more damage than he anticipated and gives us a grocery list of items he needs to fix the leaking shelter. After we've gathered the items and fixed our Mog House, the Moogle informs us that he's received word that the rooms in Juneau are having similar issues and asks us to come along to help him there. When we arrive in Juneau, we find a note for our Moogle containing a very poorly spelled and written message. We check out the room and find that the state is indeed pretty horrible, with failing walls, leaking roofs, and more. Our Moogle sends us after another list of items, and then we fix up our room much like we did our Mog House. Once the room repairs are complete, a letter magically appears from the boss of the Moogle Association, lambasting our Moogle for requesting better accommodations. Suddenly, the letter erupts with dark energy, covering our room with spooky eyes and strange ghosts and dark tendrils. It would seem the letter from the boss of the Moogle Association contained some kind of hex, locking our Moogle into a box. He asks us to go find Professor Shantotto in Windurst, who will surely know how to break this curse. Arriving at the professor's lab in Windurst, we explain the situation. She explains that she'll need one or more ingredients to complete the reagents for breaking the curse, and then sends us to go find it. Once procured, we head back to Juneau with the professor in tow. She quickly and masterfully dispels the curse that was contained within the scroll, accidentally revealing that it was one of her own design before suddenly warping away. Resolving to get to the bottom of this scroll, our Moogle flies off to try and meet with the Moogle Association boss, and is quickly sent flying back down. 6 hilariously serious Moogles descend from the ceiling, bowing as another Moogle flies down behind them. It is revealed that this boss Moogle is actually the associate president's son, Toto. He has a reputation for being a horrible troublemaker and also is remarkably stupid. Toto reveals that as his father is aging, he's decided to assume control of the Moogle Association for himself. He reveals that his harebrained scheme is to basically scam everybody out of their guild by charging exorbitant fees to use the Mog House and Rent-A-Room systems. To avoid losing his job, our Moogle asks us to dig up his secret stash of gil to cover the fees that are now being levied against us. After discovering that he definitely doesn't have enough money to cover the fees, our Moogle resolves to contact another Moogle, Rico, who both hates the Moogle Association family and is also super mega rich. We make for his hideout in the Sea Serpent Grotto. After hearing that his nemesis is up to no good, Rico agrees to help us, giving us a note of loan for the amount requested by Toto. As we return to our Moogle with the loan, a group of goblin repo men show up with a contract and an offer. Our Moogle can erase his debt by agreeing to be a slave. Oh, they also kidnapped our Moogle's girlfriend, I think? I don't know. As we arrive to rescue our Moogle's girlfriend, a goblin flies past us, defeated by none other than the girlfriend herself, who is apparently very strong. A Mithra, non-amigo, then appears and explains that she's been enticed by the offer of a ton of gil to enforce this new contract on our Moogle and ourselves. We fight and defeat her, where she runs away before any more harm can come to her. Before we can lay the smackdown on the goblins, they also run away. After regrouping in Juneau, we receive a letter from Toto expressing his apologies and inviting us to an event in the form of bandaging a wound from the experience. With the invitation in hand, we head for Castle's Val? Kind of a weird place for a party. Arriving in the throne room, we discover that this event was actually a trap, a massive surprise. Rico then appears, revealing that he was the one behind the scheme from the very beginning. He reveals a gemstone in his stomach, which is actually a magicite, which he uses to grow his body to enormous size, becoming a formidable foe. He swears to take revenge on adventurers for utilizing the Moogle race for labor for hundreds of years, and attacks us. Of course, we defeat him, and the Magicite detaches from his body, shrinking him back down to normal size. He reveals that the Magicite was affecting a degree of control over him, allegedly, and then runs away before he can face any further repercussions. With their scheming foiled, Toto and Rico give up, running away as we wrap up our adventures to stop the Moogle uprising. In Windurst, we see a scene play out of some Tarutaru discussing the legendary Dr. Shantotto, both overcome with a feeling that she's been delving into some less than favorable magical acts recently. The scene cuts to Shantotto herself, standing over a bubbling cauldron, casting spells and reciting rhymes. After some effort, a portal appears above her cauldron, drawing her in as she panics, fearing that the spell she managed to cast was a little more powerful than she expected. As she disappears, a massive pillar of light erupts from her cauldron, illuminating the sky. We then see a scene of what looks like Shantotto, but in a different outfit, with an army of dark mages claiming that she will conquer Vana'diel before the soldiers chant Domina Shantotto. We arrive outside of Windurst to find a Moogle flying to our side, delivering a letter which is marked as urgent. The letter glows, creating a holographic image of sorts of Shantotto, who appoints us to the Special Operations Group of her new empire, instructing us to head for Quiffum Island for further orders. Unsure of what to make of this strange letter and Shantotto's intentions, we decide to make for Quiffum to see what we can learn. In Quiffum, we arrive to find the dark mages from before as a meteor streaks across the sky and lands in front of us, revealed to be Shantotto herself. She asks that we travel across Vana'diel, placing a seal on the 6 elemental proto-crystals in each elemental cloister. After accomplishing this, we return to Quiffum to find Shantotto, but instead are greeted by our Moogle, who once again has a holographic letter for us. Shantotto asks us this time to, holy shit, assassinate Aldo? It seems she sees Aldo as a massive threat and asks that we procure a book from someone and then meet Aldo in Gustav Tunnel to carry out a hit on him. In Gustav Tunnel, we are assaulted by 3 Shantotto members. We defeat them before Aldo himself shows up and reprimands his associates for attacking us. After that, we reveal to him that Shantotto had sent us there to take his life, obviously telling him that we don't intend to do that. He obviously is pretty shocked by this news, and he wonders what in the world Shantotto is up to this time. Aldo asks to meet us at the Shantotto HQ to discuss the current situation with a bit more privacy. As we arrive there, Yorin Oren, a representative from Windurst, bursts in, revealing information that will crack this case wide open. The portal that Shantotto managed to conquer didn't actually teleport her anywhere, but instead it created a clone of her. Yeah man, we're doing the evil clone trope. This clone, Domina Shantotto, is seemingly out to hatch some kind of world domination plot, and we resolve with Aldo and Yorin to stop her dastardly schemes. We head for Romave, where we discover the real Dr. Shantotto is being held captive. However, we can immediately tell that something isn't right. This Shantotto is way too nice. She's cordial and kind, and while the real Shantotto is often very crass and abrasive, Yorin quickly surmises that the cloning was not a true duplication, but instead a split of sorts, separating Shantotto into her good and evil sides. The good side, demure and extremely polite, has been locked away in the ruins of Romave, allowing her evil side to wreak havoc in Vana'diel. The good Shantotto informs us that her evil half is in Torre Mare Canal, and we make for the area to stop this increasingly strange plot. Arriving at the canal, Domina Shantotto reveals the particulars of her plan. The seals that she had us place on the crystals are not actually designed to suppress their powers, instead doing the opposite, draining the crystals to power themselves. The seals, she reveals, are actually pieces of a powerful curse that will subjugate all of the citizens of Vana'diel to a form of mind control, making them her minions. Domina then sicks her mages on us. After defeating them, the good Shantotto appears and reveals that she also wants to dominate the world, but for good. It would seem that both sides of the Doctor, good or evil, are equally hell-bent on world domination. Domina proposes a truce of sorts, offering to work with the good Shantotto to dominate the world together, and then split up their takings after the plan is done. Now united, the 2 Shantottos turn to face us, telling us that our plan is a lost cause before teleporting away. We head back to the Shantotto HQ to refocus our efforts and regroup. Yorin then arrives, telling us he's managed to locate the 2 doctors, who had stashed themselves away deep in the Temple of Ugalepi. We rush there to stop their plot of world subjugation. We confront the 2 Shantottos and engage in a battle with them for the fate of Vana'diel. After defeating them, Domina unfortunately musters some strength, firing a curse that she had been preparing into the air, creating a giant Shantotto? Dude, what is happening? As the giant Shantotto clone looms, a dark wave spreads across Windurst, turning everyone into clones of Domina. The curse then spreads, turning every man, woman, child, and even monster into Shantotto clones. As Domina and the good Shantotto revel in their victory, a rift opens up above them. The real Shantotto steps out, creating a massive copy of herself, which does battle with the giant Domina clone in the most chopped kaiju battle you've ever seen. Eventually, the real Shantotto giant wins, defeating the Domina giant and reverting the curse, transforming the denizens of Vana'diel back into their normal states. As the curse is dissipated, we see the seal on the proto-crystals burn up and fade, releasing the evil twins' curse plot for good. The real Shantotto then reveals what actually happened. The portal she created did not split her, but instead transported her to another dimension, which is kind of a cool in-universe way to explain the fact that she shows up in other properties. She then explains that another Shantotto in another universe used this gate as an opportunity to step into our universe, but the spell was so powerful that it actually split her into two separate forms. The real Shantotto then opens a portal once more, sending Domina and the good Shantotto back to their home dimension to merge and become whole once again. Shantotto begrudgingly accepts that interdimensional travel magic is probably something that you shouldn't mess with, and then promptly vanishes. With the crisis averted for now, we return to our normal adventures, and the Shantotto Ascension plot is reverted. However, in Windurst, we see a new beam of light flash into the sky. What could that mischievous Dr. Shantotto be up to now? And with that, we wrap up our 3 add-on scenarios for the Wings of the Goddess lifecycle. Like I mentioned in the video going over the Wings of the Goddess, these add-on scenarios were not super well received at the time of their release, nor was the overall Wings of the Goddess experience. These stories ended up being seen mostly as a cheap filler to keep players busy. You see, at this time, Square Enix was deciding whether or not they were going to continue allocating resources to Final Fantasy XI at all. Final Fantasy XIV had been in development for about 4 or 5 years by the time that these story scenarios had wrapped up and had already been announced to be releasing. Of course, with the absolute utter failure that 1.0 turned out to be, the resources were allocated back to 11 in order to buy some time, resulting in the game's final expansion, Seekers of Adoulin. I do plan to cover the Seekers of Adoulin story in a future video. For now though, we're going to wrap up this video. Thanks for watching, and if you made it to the end, leave a comment letting me know what you think about the add-on stories and what I should cover next, or any questions that you might have. Leave a like and subscribe if you feel like I've earned it, and I'll see you in the next one. I also want to mention that I did create a Discord server for the YouTube channel, and that'll just be a place where some notifications live, and also a place where 14 players can gather up and maybe make some parties for content that you might want to run. I'm considering streaming in the future. I haven't quite decided on if I'm going to do that or not, but if I do, all of that information will be there, as well as notifications for whenever I upload, so make sure that you follow it if you'd like to. Alright, I'll see you on the next one. Bye.